Hi, I do this without a crew. I'm just like Bo Burnham. Apparently he didn't do his special with a crew. Um, so I find that interesting. But let me speak about something that's helpful to you, the audience member. Is there anything that much helpful? Is promotion dead in the world? Is pop culture dead? These are the questions we need to answer. And it's just that in order to rise above being sad about things, I think you have to find that within yourself. Maybe I should state my positions more clearly or something like that, because it's probably gotten to the point where I'm not really saying anything interesting. Uh, Possibly, or at least, I mean, I just hold myself to a really high standard, and um, I do like being recorded, and it's like I'll bring myself back to being recorded probably no matter what, because the point is, well, whatever. It's just that there's something interesting maybe about the word interesting that like I have to answer to if I'm boring or not, like if I'm boring as a person in reality. Like maybe I'm just boring, but you look at somebody like PewDiePie and he's kind of boring, but it's kind of like not very promotional. What he does is not promotional towards himself. And I don't feel like I'm very self promotional, and sometimes I act like I do. Sometimes I just say things to sabotage the process. And not the process, it's just that I'm kind of self sabotaging, maybe. Or, but it's just kind of more like I always think that I am losing my imagination, and there's something kind of fucked up about the idea of an imagination. And it's just that when I can't get into the territory of saying what I want on things because I feel I feel restricted by what it would be like maybe people I know, because often I think of my audience and I think that it's people that I know that are listening to it, and then most people that I know are Christians, and so the same way that Jay Leno and Jimmy Fallon do, I have to compromise on what I would say just so that I can appeal to Christian audiences. The same way that Jay Leno would do. He compromised on interesting things to appeal to Christian audiences, or to appeal more broadly. Like, and I could say things that were, so I'm imagining that my audience is Christian. I actually have no idea who listens to the podcast. I really don't. And that's fine. It's just that so like I might compromise on something I could say to appeal to Christian audiences, but like Christians are kind of resilient in my opinion. Let me give some credit to Christians. They're kind of resilient, and by that I mean like the swag of a Christian. I feel like it's because they believe so much in themselves that you can't deny, like they think so highly of that they've been definitely called for something higher, that they have like too much belief in themselves in comparison to somebody who's not religious, like and Christians just believe so much in what their belief system is or whatever. But it has to do with high levels of belief and an importance placed on belief. Christianity has its own morals and has its own traditions that are specific to itself. Like maybe belief is the biggest ones. I think that they tend to trivialize concepts like belief and faith that are actually kind of profound and high-ended and confusing. Like faith is a confusing concept, I would say. It's not very simple. It's not simple. Like, and Christians will say that it is, but like to have belief but it's just that you automatically have lots of belief as a Christian because you're like the king of the universe has called me and I'm their son or their daughter, and that's all well and good. But so this is just something I'm starting into saying. Like, what I'm saying is I could criticize Christian things and I feel like they would look at it as though I was questioning my faith and that I'm still a Christian. Like, not until the point that you're like, I'm not a Christian. And, like, I don't really aim to be a Christian. I don't really believe in heaven and hell. So that's whatever. But, for Christian audiences. And so it's just that I don't want to make a bad podcast, so I will go into the territory of saying things like that, because that's what's true to me. And I just want to pose a few questions about it. As long as it's gotten to a point where I feel like I'm not necessarily saying interesting things. Like, I can't make this podcast about cryptocurrency because, like, I'll make it about currency, which is a broader term than cryptocurrency. It encompasses more things, as I've been explaining. Like, I like to cover different cryptocurrencies, but there's kind of something not that deep about it. Like, I feel like what I said about the episode I made about Ethereum is, like, I could explain portions of it better, but like me myself, I feel like I got to the bottom of what Ethereum is to some extent. Like, I kind of get what it is, and it's kind of it's like not the most complicated thing ever. It's just going to be around because we have so much faith in computers and technology, and like current beliefs and ideologies say that like technology is going to last forever or whatever. Like, we don't think the internet is going away, and this is an artistic point of interest right now because the people who are like the leading artists of the time, like people who are saying the most things, like Bo Burnham is one of them, just because of the recent special he made, but Russell Brand is another one of them. The people who are really saying things, like those two people more so than Joe Rogan, are people that we would be interested in their opinion at this time. And they are both like leading cutting edge art, I'd say, kind of goes after Facebook and Google and Amazon, and I think that those are the next things to fall. And like the same way that the mainstream media fell, that is mainstream media being cable media, CNN and MSNBC, NBC, cable channels, like the hold that cable channels had over us for such a long time. I think that dissipated considerably, like especially in wake of the past election. But like, it'll be interesting to see what happens in the next election year, if people can really be as gung-ho as they used to be, seeing as that the conservatives need to provide just as much energy as the liberals, and the conservatives don't think that the election can play out fairly anymore, and so they kind of took their ball and went home because they're just pissed that an election, they don't think that an election will actually be held fairly. And I think that they have a gripe, but they have a gripe because nobody in the media would recognize the validity of an opinion that the election didn't play out fairly when it is a valid opinion. But it's just like, the media is kind of dead, but media graduated to socialized media, Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. Like, but we've seen that we've seen that that's been happening for a while. But I think that they are not untouchable, and there's like cryptocurrency is probably a better version of what Facebook and Google and Twitter have to offer. Like, it's probably more intelligent and more efficient, seeing as the way that they're able to give cash to their employees. But it's just kind of like it's a newer technology, and people's hope in it is basically that it is relatively better than existing structures, such as the existing financial system and the existing banking system, existing digital media corporations. Like, we see that it's relatively better. Part of the entire thing about it is that it points out the convention of money at a greater level than it's been able to be pointed out to the mainstream. Like, because at a mainstream level, you're able to see that cryptocurrency isn't like real money, but really just that the entire value in it, the reason people put money in it is that yes, it is not real money, but it is it's just like this, like fiat. The current currency that we trade in is also not real money, and like cryptocurrency is better than that. But yeah, I guess I'm going off on a different tangent just so that I don't like I'm just filling time. Like if I'm gonna be on here filling time, that's upsetting. It's just that I the question I wanted to ask is what if loving Jesus makes you sad? Like I would say that in my experience, if I have to love Jesus, this makes me sad in life. And so what do you do about that? What do you do about when people are sad about, like, loving Jesus makes them sad? To me, like, so I'm just saying, consider this kind of person where, like, when I feel like I have to love Jesus or be a Christian, this makes me sad because I don't want to do any of that. And, like it just gives me anxiety because because the love is too much. I would say the infinite unfailing love of the King of the universe, I think that that's a little bit much. Like there are some days where I'd like to go and get groceries, you know. So it's like maybe I don't have to be a son of the King of the universe today, so I could just get groceries. Like maybe a couple things I do in life don't have to be extremely high stakes. Like, and it gives me a lot of anxiety to have to play out my entire life in very humble terms in front of the King of the universe, the autocratic ruler. And I feel like it's like the King of England, really, like the same relationship I would have to the King of England if I was like a serf in medieval times. I think that that's the relationship you want me to have to God, and that's why Christians often refer to him as the King. But it's like King of the universe that you're actually never going to meet while you're on Earth. Um, what relationship am I supposed to have to that entity besides complete humility? Seeing as that I'm a regular person, this kind of takes a lot of energy out of it for me, and that's why it makes me sad to have to go into loving Jesus. And I don't know. And it makes me sad to not be able to talk about that. It makes me sad, but um, I don't know why I get on here and keep saying it's for money. It's not for money because I don't make any dollars off of it. I'm just alluding to that. I'm just talking about promotion, but promotion is kind of dead because of the groups of people that explain that everything you do is for money, which is just more and more a prevailing train of ideologies that kind of derails people who bank themselves on their story, like Theo Von and Joe Rogan. Like Joe Rogan is kind of relatively more dead than he was just 6 months ago because we don't because maybe he's too promotional and promotion is a little bit dead. You see that promotion is dead. You watch if you watch the Ben Askren versus Jake Paul boxing match, and this is like the cutting edge of promotion in our society. Like this is one of the few events that people are interested in, like pop culturally, that everyone's going to tune into. Like in wake of like when the pandemic started, and they call it the global pandemic just to be dramatic and just to scare you more, because the media is to no end promoting the virus. But this is partially why promotion is now dead, because in the wake of the pandemic, we see that news agencies, which are entirely just about promotion of their agendas and what they see as new and their story, and it's like stories are always promotional. This is why Joe Rogan is dead in an era where promotion is relatively more dead. Like stories are promotional, stories are kind of for money. This is just I'm just trying to explain, I don't know, like it's not really for money if you're a person that's just doing it anyway. Like if I ever stopped at any point, then maybe you'd say that I was just trying to be promotional or something. But it's like the Ben Askren Jake Paul fight. This is very given over to promotion. It's like one of the few events recently that like it's going to move pop culture in some way, and the reason it is influential, that people are interested in it, because it's the story of, or so it's hard to find an organic narrative anymore, especially when the people we gave the authority to choose narratives, we see that they're bullshitters now. And like the media, but just now that people get to decide the narrative, things kind of become relatively more boring. There isn't a phenomenal person And I'm trying to come to grips with this. Like um, yeah, like we don't see a very highly celebrated figure anymore, as I've sort of been explaining. But it's interesting that Bo Burnham makes a comedy special, and this is very phenomenal, and it's like everyone's like, that's the greatest piece of art ever. It's spectacular, um, because it is, because he's saying a lot of things and integrated a number of new things and even like created new genres, sort of like a giant roving music video in different music videos. Giant movie of music videos is kind of its own genre, but so it's this very new kind of art, and like everybody's like, wow, that's the greatest. But like I think it's phenomenal. I don't want to detract from it at all, but I mean, as long as I'm making a podcast, I'm sort of like, you people are competitors to you, and there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just that it's I forget what I was going to say. I just don't want to come across as a hater, because I'm not. So maybe I just won't go into it. It's just that there is a number of pessimistic people, like liberal people, people that don't produce anything, that are just going to rely on the message of Bo Burnham to say, oh, that's the most spectacular thing. He's right. Life is a farce, and digital media is controlling everything, and money and art only ever benefits people in Silicon Valley, is kind of the message of this comedy special. And so there's a lot of people who don't produce anything that can rely on Bo Burnham to be like, oh, he said it all. And that's kind of like, that's part of why it blows up. But like everything that people create nowadays, there's like backlash almost instantly. So I'm wondering if that can even happen with this, or if it's just like, oh, it's a spectacular piece of art. But like, I think there's a lot of pessimistic people that don't want to have to say anything, and they'll just say, oh, Bo Burnham said it all about anybody who even tries to make anything out of their home, anybody who tries to record anything. So these people then can give up on their dreams or the thought of ever having to do that, because they can rely on someone like Bo Burnham to burn everybody who does the things that he's making fun of. But it's like, there's parts of what he said that doesn't hold up. There's hypocrisy in it, the same way there's like some amount of hypocrisy within all of his specials, as he's always alluded to himself, just about that stuff for money only profits people in Silicon Valley. But like, just saying that the world is going to end in 7 years, like the song That Funny Feeling, and 20,000 years of this, only 7 more to go. This is a kind of like a doomsday narrative that people who don't produce anything can rely on to shirk responsibility of having to give original thoughts on things. Like, we're like, oh, Bo Burnham said it all, and like, because what he's saying is true. I feel like with that lyric, he's kind of alluding to the death of promotion more so. And it's just that in wake of a promotion-y world, what's left? Can you still produce art at the point that we see that all art is for money? But like, that's what I'm saying with like, oh, I'm just doing this for money, or I just bring that up a lot, is that I'm saying that art is for profit, and that's what Facebook is. Facebook is an artistic rendering. Twitter is an artistic rendering. Like, Facebook's an they're all somebody's art, but like art that somebody created to try to get a community of people on board with it, because try to get people to buy into the significance and value of the function that they created, and then like that the function meets a certain need, is an artistic development that happens in the world, the same way that the creation of a microwave is an artistic development, because it only played out this specific way, this specific artistic rendering that somebody created. Like, a microwave could have ended up taking a number of forms, and maybe have used something other than microwaves, but like, just the way that technology develops, like that's the thing that ends up being created. But like, whatever's created by somebody is their artistic vision, and then these things get enacted in the world, and then, but like, you see that art is for profit because of the popularity of a microwave is what, and it like inevitably makes a lot of money for the creator of it, but like the more popular it is, the better the art is. And it's like and the same thing with comedy specials or comedians or recording artists, music artists, is that the better ones that are the ones that are more popular. But like art is always for, like, the better the art, the more popular it is, the more it is for profit. But it's just kind of like everything done in the name of art is done to be profitable, because all the art that you make, you're trying to aim for it to be popular. I think it was Dave Grohl that said every song that he writes, like for the Foo Fighters, but I guess it could be for any band, any song that he's ever written. But I think it was him say that every song that he writes, he tries to make it like a #1 hit. And I was confounded the first time I heard that. I maybe heard him say that like more than 10 years ago, but he's like, every song, I think it was Dave Grohl, every song that he writes he's like, I'm trying to make it a hit. And I was like surprised that then, if that's the case, that they don't all end up being hits. But it's like, they don't, because mostly just because you as a creator can't, like, you can try to be intuitive about the world as best you can, but like you're like, and there's people that are more naturally gifted at being intuitive about how an audience will receive something, or like receive the thing that you created. And the audience can be the entire world in the event that you're like Steve Jobs trying to create like an iPhone that's popular worldwide. People aim to do, some people are more ambitious and then they release a creation worldwide for their art to be like that. But if you're more on the cutting edge, like if you're more on the cutting edge, then you can speak in terms of like computer programming or technology, so that the things that you're able to create are in line with what is artistically viable currently. And it's just that computers have so much to say of what is artistically viable right now, and there aren't a lot of people, especially just content makers on YouTube or artists, that know anything about programming languages or speaking in terms of computers, or like, because a lot of the creation that you'll be able to do hypothetically with cryptocurrency is digital, but is like based on you being able to create within the space of brackets in the computer code for the program you're writing, for the software that you're encoding. And part of it is the community, the computer community, the technology community. They will encrypt what they're saying. They'll call what they're doing to be code, when that's kind of a deceitful term, like to make it sound more encoded and more encrypted like computer language. That doesn't really help anybody. That's kind of elitist. But it's always like the group of people is trying to protect their authority, so they're going to make it less accessible to the public. And part of what the computer writing community does to make that happen is they call what they're doing coding, and that is ubiquitously accepted as the term. And it is like coding, but that it's not encoding. Like, it's writing it's a language more so than that it is code. It's like a relatively more coded language, but it's like the importance of it, ultimately you're talking to a computer, so you have to say the right commands. Like, so it's about putting in the right commands so a computer hears it. And so it has more to do with talking to a specific entity, like a specific audience, It has more to do with tailoring your message to what a computer knows. Like, it has more to do with talking and just learning the language of how a computer speaks. And so this is like relatively more like code, but it's just that everything is code, okay? English is code because there's once I say these words match, like I say the word aardvark, and aardvark is the term as representative of the entire set of aardvarks. Like anything that is an aardvark is under this term, and so I invoke the property that encapsulates every instance of an aardvark. And this is like, but like Morse code is dot 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 and dash dash or whatever. And if you know Morse code, then you know what that is correlated to. But everything is code. Like, you know what aardvark is correlated to when I say that. You know what area of ideas to go to, or like, it's the same. It's because I said it and then you heard it, but that's based on me tailoring my message to an audience for them to hear it. Like, all language is code. The computers call their shit code. But like, this is my job, is to devalue. I mean, like, take away the mystique of computer people or technology, and it's like, I'd say that leading artists are like Russell Brand is kind of shitting on technology, and the question is, can we throw so much shade on technology that computers could eventually go out the door? Now, I'm not saying that could happen in the next 30 years. Maybe in the next 120 years, computers are out the door. But it's like, we see that and Bo Burnham brings up a lot of good points about this, that there's just like, it's not a great idea for us to give so much power to digital media corporations that fuck with our humanity. And like Facebook and Google and Twitter, I think that these are, like, cryptocurrency can disintegrate these giant entities, even though you would have thought that they are untouchable. Like, I think that they will be called more and more into question as time goes on. And so that I'm trying to relate this to, like, I say that things are for money because it's like, art is generally for profit, but like, this is what I'm saying about Christianity. It's just that I can't be on this podcast and try to make it Christian all the time, because, like, make it for a Christian audience, because then I won't be good at this, or I'll make shitty content. So you can tell that where my allegiance lies is not with, like, appealing to a Christian audience. But maybe you already knew that. It's just that I would maybe want to state that more clearly. But I don't really have, but like, it's promotional, you know. It's promotional that I would allude to that I'm a Christian, or still try to hold on to that in order to get the largest audience possible, like make myself unidentifiable, so that I could be more popular. And so there's a relationship between promotion and this, like, and Christianity in itself is promotional, and Christians promote what they have to do. They do it in a kind of indirect way, because there aren't a lot of Christians that go around actually confronting people about, like, oh, you need to go to heaven and join Christianity. Most of them don't. I think that they rely on God to bring people into the church. But like, so they're a little bit anti-promotional, but it's not like they are any less promotional. It's not like they're any less spazzed out about people joining the church. Like, they want everybody to join, and anybody that walks into a church, like, Christians want them there. Like, Christians just want their church to grow, just the same way any community does. And I don't know, the link between them and promotion. It's just that no, I don't really try that hard to be promotional, I don't think. But what I was saying was, the fight between Jake Paul and Ben Askren was a sight to see. I paid to watch it, and I did. I paid to watch it, but it's like the return on investment for me was more. Like, I gained from the experience because I got to see the state of the world for, like, what people deem to be an influential set of narratives that's happening. But like, it's influential because Jake Paul doesn't have the authority to be a boxer according to the world, and he's always speaking out of turn about authorities like the education system and shit like that, and people are just like pissed at him because he doesn't have the authority, like he's just a YouTuber, and so there's not necessarily anything special about him. He's just all hype and all words and all promotion and all money. And like, so he's someone that you'd look at and say that, oh, promotion isn't dead because he's one of the artists in the world that still has something to say, that people respect his opinion. But it was just really interesting to see this fight, and that's true. But like the point that I'm bringing up is just that, like, you watch this fight and it's the state of pop culture in the world, like as it stands. As it turns out, like Snoop Dogg is still fine. Like the people that they got to host this thing are all like relevant, like Snoop Dogg and Pete Davidson. But then it's Ben Askren and Jake Paul are in this fight, like two people that are still viable today. Like Ben Askren is viable because he has an interesting association with horribly embarrassing situations, and the world kind of likes embarrassment and likes cringe, and Ben Askren is very cringy, and he brings a lot of cringe on himself by making this big display out of, okay, I'm going to do this boxing match and I'm going to win. And it would appear that Ben Askren's entire confidence in him winning this fight against Jake Paul was just based on the fairy tale that, like, oh, if you're a bully in a big situation, you'll crumble. And this is just kind of like an adage, but he thought that he could talk his way to winning this fight, but Jake Paul actually took it seriously because, like who knows what Ben Askren is up to, that he's willing to bring horribly embarrassing situations upon himself. Like maybe that's just something that he's attracted to, or he's like could just come down to that he's emotionally manipulative to his wife, like, oh, my wife will only love me if I am like this much a victim, or like this much horrible goes wrong for me, or like that he would bring that upon himself. I'm just saying, like, that fight wasn't thrown, and if you had seen it, you'd know that in 99 out of 100 of those fights, Jake Paul would have won, because like Ben Askren wasn't taking it seriously, and like it's kind of fine to not take things seriously, and like that's a good artistic message, to not take things seriously, or just like make everything a joke, like because the world isn't taking things very seriously, and that's why cancel culture, we just tear apart all the art that anybody makes, and like it's difficult to make anything at all, because the thing with cancel culture is not so much that like individual people are getting canceled, it's just that all of America is operating on this level where they're like, oh, anything that anyone makes is shit, because it's just like a superficial narrative at some point. Like, this is what people are worried about with cancel culture, it would seem. Like, it's kind of bigger, it's a bigger idea than cancel culture. It's just that, like, shit gets torn apart right away. Even Bo Burnham's special, people are, like, going about it, trying to define it for what it is. Oh, it's spectacular, it's phenomenal, it's incredible, as a means of trying to get it out of our system. It's just that we like go through things so quickly, and we're trying to get shit out of our system. And Bo Burnham, someone like him, is a problem for a society that's trying to cancel everything. And so it's like Ben Askren kind of goes about things to not take things seriously the same way that culture is doing. Like, they're sort of, I don't know what culture takes seriously, but it's like a boxing match is the last thing that you can not take seriously. Like, because the second you're there, like, you realize that is the thing you have to take seriously. So like, yeah, it's clear to see after the fact why Ben Askren lost. And I find it interesting that Ben Askren goes on social media right the day after, and he's like, sorry world, and he was explaining his tweet, and he was like, I said sorry world because I just let the entire world down. Like, everybody hates Jake Paul, and they needed me to be the hero to beat him, and I didn't do that. I just let everybody in the world down. And it's really like, no, Ben Askren, you actually let the people you know down, the people that, like, your friends and family members that are now embarrassed to know you. Like, those are the people you let down, and you're just avoiding that situation by saying, oh, I let the world down. And that's too bad. But I'm just saying, like, Pete Davidson and Snoop Dogg are the hosts of this thing, and they bring in, like, current musical acts, and the entire thing lasted like 6 hours, and I fell asleep before the boxing match even happened. Um, but then I woke up and no, like I woke up and then it was happening. Like that broadcast lasted like 8 hours, and like it's interesting that Snoop Dogg holds up to this day because he is so one-dimensionally committed to that it just never dies. And but Pete Davidson, we're like, oh, he's interesting, and Pete Davidson is funny, and his recent comedy special is really good, and but I wonder even how long the Pete Davidsons and Jake Pauls of the world can hold up. But this event is influential because of the regular person rising to the level of sports star. It's not supposed to happen because it's been ingrained into us by media, by like NBC, ESPN, everybody broadcasting sports, that these are the greatest people in the world, you know, for every sport, and then they have to come clean about some of the promotional shit that they're peddling about, like the athletes being the greatest. Like obviously in pretty much every situation, it's like Ryan Braun or Buster Posey. Does Buster Posey still play? Buster Posey is like obviously better than everybody else, like who would just walk onto a baseball field. But maybe there's things like boxing. But it's interesting to watch Joe Rogan lose the battle to Jake Paul because Joe Rogan's allegiances are so much with the UFC, and then Ben Askren is UFC, and then he gets his ass kicked in a boxing match, and then Joe Rogan has nothing to say about it besides that Jake Paul's a little punk, like like he's not on the right side of that because Jake Paul is the winner, and we should all be really happy for Jake Paul for overcoming all the haters. Like honestly, and I'm not being sarcastic, like I feel a lot of joy for him, that he, like the relief he must feel after having the entire world make content shitting on him, making him the subject of cringe compilations and saying he's the shittiest ever, and then he's actually able to prove something, like be respected in a real domain. I think that's fascinating, and now he's talking about how, but whatever. Like, so it's interesting to see if someone like him who's kind of all about promotion, but he's kind of about promotion in a world that hates it, he like stands by that, and that's what we need to be. Like, promotion isn't dead. We're not going to be canceled. There's shit to say. We don't need to rely on the people who seem to have said it all to be like, oh, everything has been said, so that we can easily give up on our dreams, you know? And I think that's what people say with cancel culture, is that there's just a lot of pervading negativity and pessimism about creating anything at all because what is there to be said. And like Christianity, what is there to be said? I think that there's a lot to be said. I think that there is a lot, and so cryptocurrency is like relatively more, it's decentralized, decorporational than current banking and corporational structures. And so it does have value. Like the entire thing wouldn't go under, but I do anticipate that it might be a while. Like we might be in a stagnant holding pattern with cryptocurrency for like another year or so before it goes up again. And will it be astronomical? I don't really know, but like I'm kind of in the business of, like, the second I started this podcast, I realized that I was really a lot more critical of the entire thing than before I started, because now I'm speaking on it. And now it's like it's hard for me to understand why I liked it so much before, but it's like when the market is up, the dopamine is going in my brain because the opportunity to make money and shit like that. And so I get really excited when the market goes up, and I start thinking irrationally and throwing money at it. But so like I will spare you my predictions for the market. Like I'm saying Ethereum, this is the beginning of the Ethereum era. Maybe. I'm just like, I'm going to try to limit predictions I make because but I'll say like generally what I predict, or like, but I'm just going to say that right at this moment I don't know that you would want to invest in cryptocurrency. Maybe you should wait a few months. but I'm not your financial advisor. But overall, Ethereum and Bitcoin are the best investment because they're the largest ecosystems. They use up so much electricity. They're just larger in scope than everything else. Like, I don't want to shit talk Bitcoin. Bitcoin and Ethereum are your best investment at this point, especially in the state of things where the market isn't booming. So you know that it's good to invest in like alternate coins. But like, I don't want to be dishonest. I don't want to I do like to be recorded and make it so that I have things to say, and the reason that, and so like, in order to keep wanting to be promoted, I need to make a state of things where I'm able to say what I want, but it's just that there are things that are my opinion. I'll get more into Christian stuff into the future, and or just like things that I have to say about it. But I appreciate that you would listen, and feel free to comment anything that you want on my YouTube channel. And that's part of why I made it, is just like, now there's a place to comment if you want to. You don't have to. You don't have to do a thing. It's just that like, Jesus is love, and Jesus' love is, that's pretty promotional. It's pretty promotional and hyped up to say that you as a body of people have the secret formula for arriving at the love of the King of the universe. Like, that's kind of promotional once you understand that that's what's on the table here for you, either accepting Christianity or not. And there's just something kind of crippling about the love of Jesus, I would say. And it's a little bit like, let's pray the love of Jesus on ourselves. And but like saying, pray the love of Jesus on me, or on this person needs Jesus's love, I'd say that it's a similar thing to pray Pegasus's fire on somebody. Like, we cast down Pegasus's fire but it's like Jesus's love instead of just regular love. Because like, if you have Jesus's love, this kind of protects you from the world and the love that you might be able to receive from the world. But it does it in a way that's kind of more profound than it should, like in a way that's kind of crippling to you. Like, for example, never mind. I'll get into it later. I'm going to keep you on edge because you know what? Cliffhanger, you need to tune back in, because there are more things that you need to hear. I have not done saying things. I will always have things to say. And you're talking to I'm just going to have things to say. And so you need to tune back in. Listen to me. Listen to my thing. Listen to what I have to say, because people most of the time, people don't take the time to record themselves so that they force themselves to say something interesting. Okay, I am making it so that what I want to do is dependent on me being interesting. Other people don't force themselves into the pressure of a situation like that they're going to make sure that they have to try to make something interesting in order to survive in this this anti-promotional world. Like, I'm going to do what it takes. And so I'll see you all later. I'll see you all towards you hearing me later. And sorry that I wasn't funny. Is funny dead? That's another thing that Bo Burnham brings up. It's like, funny is kind of dead, or like just being funny, because you see that that's true, that it's only a special like his that isn't necessarily more about humor. It's a comedy special like that is the only kind of one that we're going to say is spectacular, is new. It's really difficult to say that any strictly stand-up special that anybody makes is spectacular, because these things are not on the cutting edge of society like they were 10 years ago. But like, funny just takes on new terms, new people embody something new, or like want something different out of funny than they used to, and it's not so much funny now as it is memorable. Yeah, like, humor is more about what's memorable, and like things that are embarrassing are kind of more memorable. So like, memorable doesn't have to be positive for the person that created the memory, you know, that can be negative for them. And it's just like Kelsey Grammer fell off a stage once, and it was like embarrassing. Or he fell off a stage while he was giving a speech. Kelsey Grammer, who plays Frasier and plays Frasier in Cheers and Frasier, these really popular sitcoms. Like he has this very like illustrious sort of body of work as this character, you know, like memorable character. But he fell off a stage once in real life while he was giving a speech, and like this is the thing that comes up in the YouTube search when you type in Kelsey Grammer. It's not like funny things he did on the show. It's his fuck up of falling off a stage. And like it's just that things are more funny is more meme. It's more about things that are memorable. This is kind of what funny has evolved into, is transformed into, is just like memorable things are what people want to get out of it. And so memorable is less up to the creator and more up to just the audience. And so, but this is just like the times we're living in are people see it in themselves to create the narratives, and so this allows them to criticize anybody anywhere, and to the point that just the existing structures of like people making things on YouTube is like that's relatively more defunct, but this just gives way to different art. Like shit that's on TikTok isn't really under fire from cancel culture, but that's because the things made on TikTok are more memorable and less funny. It's just that we don't live in an era that's about funny, and since we have us evolving out of an era like this and into something where funny is more about things that are memorable, the ways of communicating funny went more along the lines of producing through YouTube, and like, so maybe YouTube, but that's what I'm saying is like YouTube type things, Facebook, Twitter, these kinds of things, I feel like are under fire, like, or they're going out the door a little bit. But I think radio is probably always going to be fine, at least for a long time. But yep, thanks for listening. Like if you're watching YouTube, and subscribe to my radio thing. Subscribe to my radio, subscribe to my YouTube, subscribe to me. I like to do all this, whatever. I like it. I like me, I like you, I like things. I like this lamp in front of me. I like my dog. I like there you go. Talk to you all later.